Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's take a little look at Project 2025. So I've already done a little bit of research, not a lot.
Viewers asking us about something called Project 2025. It's a plan that could dramatically change the United States government if it's enacted.
12 News journalist William Pitts is breaking down what it would do and where Project 2025 came from.
What is Project 2025? Basically, it's a 900-page plan to overhaul the U.S. government for the next Republican president. It was developed by the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank. It has 4 areas: policy, personnel, training, and a playbook for the first 180 days to be written later. Now, policy is not exactly that surprising, though it definitely does come down on the hard right side of things.
I think I need to comment or something to change the... To avoid a copyright strike, I need to alter the purpose of the content. So basically what we're doing right here is just trying to educate ourselves on what Project 2025 is. So I have taken advantage of this. I don't know this news outlet, 12 News, but this is a summary. So this is what they're putting out there. Look, they're confirming Heritage Foundation, okay, and the things that it outlines, okay.
Conservative wish list. It deals with immigration, building a border wall. It does not ban abortion, but it does call for taking mifepristone off the market. It calls...
Okay, so it doesn't ban abortion, but I think that tablet, whatever he just mentioned, is that the morning after pill, or is that the you know, in the first 8 weeks you can do a medical abortion with tablets? I'm not sure which one it is, but maybe it's the... Okay, but let's remember, this is just Project 2025 put forward by the Heritage Foundation, right? It's not policy. Okay, carry on.
For a stronger military, but also removing diversity initiatives from the Pentagon and reinstating service members who were kicked out for not getting vaccinated against COVID. And it aims to defeat what it calls the woke agenda. Personnel is where the big changes come in. Project 2025 would reclassify as many as 50.
Right, so what I'm going to do in a minute is I've got one of the people who is behind the creation of Project 2025, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the personnel stuff, because when they start to talk about this, it does start to sound concerning. Like the rest of it so far, like again, Heritage Foundation, it's a conservative think tank, these are just ideas, it's not law. Trump hasn't endorsed this, and his position on the A word, he's spoken about that frequently. So let's just go with this. This is a good summary, a quick summary.
50,000 federal workers as political appointees who could all be fired on Inauguration Day. The plan is to train what the plan calls an army of loyal conservatives to take their place, and it creates a presidential personnel database of approved people. And there's a training program for prospective political appointees. It's free, and most classes are between 30 and 90 minutes, aiming to educate people on how to be government employees. So who's behind Project 2025? The conservative Heritage Foundation lists 3 people as in charge of the project. All 3 are former Trump administration officials, and some of the authors of the document are also Trump officials. Christopher Miller, Trump's Secretary of Defense on January 6th, Ken Cuccinelli, who was the head of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Peter Navarro, a former Trump official who's now...
Peter Navarro. That name rings a bell to me. I'm not sure why.
In jail for contempt of Congress. But Trump says this about it: I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. President Biden has made this a big issue the last few days, saying he's trying to hide his connections to his allies' extreme Project 2025 agenda. The only problem, it was written for him by those closest to him. Project 2025 should scare every single American. But remember, this is only a plan drawn up by a think tank. It's not a law, it's not a bill, it's not even an official Republican Party plan. And if most of this was put into effect, it would definitely face a lot of legal challenges almost immediately. William Pitts, 12 News.
Right, okay, so that's a summary. And then I found Well, this is from like this is from over a year ago, right?
What is Project 2025?
And this
It is
is
everyone.
This is the Heritage Foundation. This guy talking at the moment, that's Paul Dans. You can see the Chiron there. I found that word out the other day. New word, I'm going to use it, Chiron. And he's one of the people behind it, right? Now, he has since left the Heritage Foundation. I'm not... I don't know, I think there was something a bit dodgy about all of that. I don't know if he wanted to distance himself from Project 2025 or... But there's some weirdness about that. But let's hear what he had to say about a year ago.
Here, this is the movement. We are going to be prepared day one, January 2025, to hit the ground running as conservatives to really help the next president. Heritage got on the marker as an organization by delivering the first mandate for leadership in 1980 to President-elect Reagan. We also, over time, gave a lot of resumes in, but when Dr. Roberts came aboard, he said, this task in 2024 is too big for any one think tank. This has to be a movement. And what we've done is use our convening power here at Heritage to bring the entire movement together. So 2025 is not a Heritage thing, it's a conservative movement thing. We're going to explain briefly here. We're going to have a panel and we'll have a video. But what we're doing is...
Right, so one of the reasons I chose this is because there's a panel. And the other thing is, like, they're talking openly and freely. I don't think this is massively, teleprompted and scripted. Because it's the main people involved. So it's speaking to a conservative... What's the name of this summit? Where are they talking? Well, anyway, I've got to keep interrupting so I don't... I'm trying to avoid a copyright strike. I don't think we're going to listen to all of this. We'll just listen to some of it.
Systematically preparing to march into office and bring a new army of aligned, trained, and essentially weaponized conservatives.
Right, I'm going to tell you straight up. None of that sounds good. A new army of aligned... What else did he say? Weaponized. I think he actually said weaponized. None of that sounds good. Don't like any of that. Bad word choice.
Ready to do battle against the deep state. So if you would...
do battle against the deep state. I get it, right? I think this is very bad phrasing. Let's carry on.
Join me in watching the video and inviting our fellow panelists here, Ed, Rick, and Ken Cuccinelli, over. So we'll cue the video and have a little discussion. What is Project 2025? It's a call for you to come work here, Washington, D.C.
Conservatives face a tough challenge in Washington, the swamp. The left has built a system that blocks and sabotages our efforts to run our government and deliver a conservative agenda.
People would come into the government on behalf of a president and not be bought into the agenda that he was elected to do. They were either uncommitted or incompetent.
Things aren't going to change unless you commit to serving our country.
We want to make sure that the plans that are in place have been vetted so that the person knows not only what argument and excuses come in their way, but what the answer is, and have the trust of a movement-wide effort led by the Heritage Foundation to make sure that they know that it's credible and it's conservative.
This time, we have a secret weapon. This time, we have Project 2025. By learning from the experience of former conservative appointees, we can overcome common obstacles and get things done.
The reason I got involved is because I wanted to be part of a movement-led effort, and Heritage Foundation has used their influence to be able to convene the movement.
We can be ready to hit the ground running on day one of the next administration. In the wise words of Morton Blackwell, you owe it to your philosophy to study how to win. Project 2025 will ensure a conservative agenda is ready to roll on day number one.
Make sure that we, as conservatives, are prepared to hit the ground running January 20th, 2025. To learn more, go to project2025.org.
Right, yeah, so again, you know, if you flip it, you know, and it was like, for me, if that was a Democrat type thing. So, yeah, I don't feel massively easy about it. I don't feel massively comfortable with, like, politicising the civil service. They're supposed to be impartial. They're supposed to be able to carry out their tasks and stuff, right? Which should be the, well, whatever the law is, and then follow the, whatever the, well, not whatever the president wants to do, obviously, you know, but within the bounds of law and stuff, the Constitution. And I'm just going to throw in that I think someone in a minute is going to speak about their experience of the 2020 administration under Trump. And I think what probably scares Democrats and what you don't realise, you know, there was, I don't know how closely any of you followed Russiagate, but I mean, yeah, as much as the Department of Justice has been weaponised against Donald Trump in the last however many years to go after him for stuff, and then there was the Russiagate, but, or Russia, whatever, Russiagate. There were a number of civil servants, noticeably in the FBI. I mean, there's Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. There's an attorney person. I can't remember his name. It might be James Butler, something like that. When he was doing the FISA requests to spy on Carter Page, I think it was, which allowed them, because of the way FISA works, allowed them to get access to Trump. They knew that one of the people that they were getting information from was a CIA asset, but he requested confirmation from the CIA, got it, they said, yeah, he is a CIA asset, and then he changed the wording. He actually changed the wording in the email to say he is not a CIA asset. Now, many of these people have been dismissed, removed from their jobs, with or without pensions, and, you know, I mean, there's Brennan, I'm going to say Clapper. I think Clapper got removed. We're not talking about Comey. Comey got fired for different reasons. We're talking about the people that got dismissed because they were involved in perpetuating this Russiagate hoax, and it was a hoax. I'm sorry, you were lied to. But so when they're talking, and the other thing is, if you look at the population of Washington, and like the District of Columbia, that's what it is, isn't it? Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. So it doesn't have an electoral college. I don't know where these people live, where they vote, where their votes count, but the majority of them are Democrats. And when I say the majority, I mean like 80-90% of them, they vote Democrat. So when a conservative gets into office, and you've got all these people working in the government, and they've got their own agenda and their own political beliefs, and they might not agree with the conservative policy, or, as we saw, like we're saying, with the FBI and with the Department of Justice, there was weaponization that happened. There were people, and you can see the Peter Strzok and Lisa Page emails online. They had a definite bias, pro-Hillary, anti-Trump. But you won't believe me. But this is the motivation of where the Project 2025 is coming from, because certain government departments have been corrupted, infiltrated, and it's just human nature. I mean, you know this even in your job. I don't know if you've ever worked for a large multinational company or a large... I haven't worked in America, but I've worked for large multinational companies, and it is possible people with their own personal agendas and stuff, you can sabotage. I love the word saboteur. You can sabotage stuff. You can, engagement of the workforce is important in any organisation, and the government is exactly the same. And I remember Trump is predominantly a businessman, and I get it, and he's also a New Yorker, and he's got that whole loyalty thing, which was a massive problem for Comey. I'm a big fan of James Comey, I really am. To the point where I'm probably naive about him. But I'd rather be naive with a touch of critical thinking than cynical and distrust everything. Oh, I don't know. Those are the kind of words that come back and bite you in the bum. But I'm just trying to explain why Conservatives might think that it's necessary to do something within the civil service, because, maybe at this point, political appointments need to go a little bit further down the hierarchy than where they have before. And I think that's it. That's what they're saying, basically. Is that concerning? Yeah, it is. Don't want everybody to be 100%, that will start to sound a bit weird. I get it. I get the concerns. But a lot of us, if you're in the MAGA camp, if you trust Trump, believe in Trump, our experience for 2020 and Russiagate, the Russian hoax, and was very different. And I can only direct you towards LawTube and stuff, and because again, I don't follow the mainstream media. I like to follow. I have time, right? So I can follow the hearings, and there are lawyers out there that will read out the transcripts. So even if it's not a televised trial or hearing, the transcripts are available, and there are certain lawyers on LawTube that will read those out. Anyway, let's carry on and listen to what happens next.
Great. Well, let me explain briefly how we've structured Project. Thank you. Let me give you a little overview how we've structured this, and I'm going to pass the mic over to Rick Dearborn to give you a little bit overview from his viewpoint as Deputy Chief of Staff in the White House and running the last transition. We have 4 pillars we speak of, and this is an integrated approach. First, as you know, today we came out with our policy book, Mandate for Leadership. This sets the table for what conservatives want in their next standard bearer. We are bringing this out before the primaries to bring the candidates to our point of view. And we're standing at the ready to train.
Right, this is a Heritage Foundation. You can see all of this on my screen, yeah? I'm hoping they won't strike me for this, because I'm trying to debunk, or at least share information on the real Project 2025, okay? So please don't strike me. The other ones might, I don't know. Let's go.
Them up and give them policy expertise. But this is a great sampling across our 50-plus member coalition of what conservatives in the main want to see in the next 4 years. 2, we're making a massive database conjoining all of our personnel recommendations into essentially a conservative LinkedIn. This is for anyone in America to enter into government here in Washington. This place is only going to change when we take people in from out.
I'm just going to say that, right? Anybody in America. They didn't specifically. So if you're concerned, if you want to be active in politics, if you're a Democrat and you believe in government, good government, I don't know, I guess you can join it. I think he just called it like a conservative Well, he didn't call it a conservative LinkedIn, did he? But that thing we were listening to before, and they said about personnel, right? And they were going to have personnel ready to go, trained. Let's just keep listening. But keep thinking, please.
Side of the Beltway. Anyone who's listening to this, who's ever aspired to come serve, this is your call to do it now. Join the database, create your profile, and then 2, we shift into pillar 3. It's our online training. It's going to teach you the rules of the road. How do you function in government? How does government function? We're going to teach you the more mundane things about how to get a security clearance, but we're going to tell you how to work effectively with the career staff, how the budget processing the budget process works, and all these other intricacies of federal government life that you can't learn on the job. And then finally, we're going to be doing...
Right, so it sounds a bit like an induction program, which isn't unusual. Most companies, again, multinationals, and there's like an induction program. This is how the company works. This is the budget process. This is how we interact with... Look, I get it, okay? I'm not denying it. Obviously, the next administration that comes in, they want to implement their policy and not be held back by... Like, there was, like House of Cards, right? You all know House of Cards with Kevin Spacey now. But back in the day, that was a British... drama. And it does. It was in the British version, Underwood. I'm not sure if his name was Underwood actually, in the British one, but it wasn't. It was just a civil servant. But it showed you, like when you've got people who work in the administration, they work as civil servants, and they've got an alignment or to one party. And you know this just within a company, middle management, it can make all the difference. I hope you can hear me over the lawnmower next door. See, I told you people don't like Trump. Right. Anyway, this is boring. I mean, and if you are interested, you can see on the screen, and you can go and find this yourself and listen to this in full. Let's just listen to a little bit more, because he's going to talk about his experience in 2020, and that's what I'm saying, like, civil servants, middle management, things get blocked, and the majority of people that live and work in Washington, D.C., they are Democrats. It's just a reality. I know it sounds really bad. I know. And like when Biden came into office, and apparently he was doing political questionnaires on the military, and he got rid of a lot of Republicans from the military or something. Now, that I'm not going to source and fact check that right now, okay? But it does happen. And is it... Another... Please step outside your comfort zone. LawTube. I mean, and if you find legal documents and stuff about whether it's Michael Flynn's trial, and how he was set up for this, lying to the FBI, or whether it's the Pfizer abuses around Carter Page's Pfizer warrant, which allowed them to get to Trump, because everything Trump said pre-2016, sorry, I've been saying 2020, I think I mean 2016, everything he's been saying, everything that Trump was saying 2016 turned out to be true. There was massive Pfizer abuse going on. And that's a different issue for me, because obviously Pfizer, that affects the whole world. Because that's just Americans just spying on everybody. Anyway, the lawnmower stopped, so let them carry on.
The playbook. This is our plan of action for the first 180 days. We're doing transition teams. Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience on the last transition and how this project will make it different?
Thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. So, Rick Dearborn, I'm the former Deputy Chief of Staff for President Trump in the White House. But before that, and right after he won election in 2016, 3 days later, I was tapped to be the Executive Director of a presidential transition. I think James Baker is the only person that's been on a transition 5 times. I think he ran one.
That was it. James Baker. I think that's the dude that edited the email. Anyway, maybe that'll come up. Come on.
3 times. Normally when you do it, it's your first time doing it. I love doing it. I don't know that I want to do it again, but the peaceful transition of power is an awesome responsibility. I would have given my right arm to have had the book that I see on so many tables out there, to have this mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. I would have been able to go to our agency action team and put the book down and say, hey, here's what you should take a look at when you're going to build out how to run EPA or the Department of Justice or DOD.
Right, because again, every company these days, you know, and a multinational, again, I'm going to say, you have a mission statement. Is this so different from like a mission statement? This is a new administration. These are the new policies. This is like the mission statement. And again, I get it, okay? We're talking about government, not a multinational. But then I've got faith in the Constitution, and I don't think that these people are going to be able to act outside the powers of the Constitution. You know, that's why you've got the 3 branches of government, you've got the checks and balances, and so a mission statement, that's what I'm hearing right now with my business experience back in the day, right?
The 4th pillar that you talked about, Paul, the idea that there's a battle plan, plans, executive orders, how do you write those? What rules are important? What should you focus on? What can you anticipate that Congress may want to reverse or advance? What should your priorities be for the administration? You know, all of that will be part of this project that we provide the next conservative president. So I'm ecstatic about it. I wish I'd had at least this first piece, the book. And I'm happy actually to turn it over to Deputy Secretary at Homeland Security and former Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli to tell you a little bit more about what is in this book and how important it is.
Well, thank you, Rick. And
right, so again, this is a think tank that's putting forward an approach for a change in administration. It's not legally, there's no legislation in place for this. Trump hasn't endorsed it. He says he's got nothing to do with it. This is just, but okay, so far I'm hearing like a mission statement, and then, yeah, I guess you need engagement, right? You need to get people's engagement and buy-in with that, which again, that's not unusual. If you work in industry and a business world, and if there's some sort of change in ownership of a company, or you need to get buy-in, stakeholder buy-in, so the people who are involved, the employees, okay, that's all I'm hearing right now. Yes, it's government. I've got some concerns. I'm going to keep that out there. Okay.
I did serve in the Department of Homeland Security, and that's the chapter that the title in the book is lead author, but the reality is in DHS, and you'll hear this from other chapter leads as well, over 30 people contributed to writing this chapter. It covers the entire waterfront of the department, which is 250,000 employees, over $50 billion budget. There's a lot of ground covered under the banner of the Department of Homeland Security. And so some of the names you'll know: Mark Morgan, Tom Homan, Joe Edlow, who followed me in USCIS. Some of the others you wouldn't recognize, some from the legislative perspective, because some of what we look to do here is lead the way and have urge a president to lead the way in changing the law, not just issuing executive orders, but permanent changes to how American government works to better serve the American national interest and the American people. And all of those in...
Right. So what I'm going to say there is... I might come back and do a part 2 when the neighbours have stopped mowing the lawn. But what I'm going to say there with that bit, I've forgotten what it said now. It's gone out of my head. Get distracted easily. Right, yeah. Executive orders versus legislation. Well, is that trying to take lobbying groups out of... because if you think at the moment about how legislation gets put forward for Congress and stuff, because like when Trump talks about draining the swamp,